Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're tackling the top 5 easiest Total War campaigns in the series. And I don't just mean easiest games, I mean the simplest or most broken mechanics, the most overpowered factions, the lazy AI or game design. And these 5 games I've ranked today are not just easiest overall, but they're also fun, right? Because it's fine to be an easy game, but it's gotta be fun as well. So that's what we're gonna do today, guys, so let's dive straight in. Coming in at number 5, we have Total War Saga Thrones of Britannia, and it truly is an easy Total War game. And to be honest, it's not easy in the fun way either, which is why it's at number 5. AI in Total War has always been a problem, and primarily because it doesn't know how to utilize the mechanics of the game, and in Thrones of Britannia, this is more so than ever. While the newly introduced and interesting food and manpower mechanics are really quite cool in this game and does force you as the player to strategize a little bit more than usual maybe, the AI simply doesn't. The biggest complaint about Thrones when it first released was that it was too easy. We've got all these cities and towns across the map, a beautiful looking map, but because the AI doesn't know how to muster an army effectively, as soon as you steamroll the faction's only army, it's basically game over for them. You sack their little production towns because of course they have no garrisons, and that starts crippling their economy, and their 2 or 3 cities are basically undefended, especially on an auto-resolve with 1 or even 1.5 armies. And the other features of the game aren't really anything to worry about either. Loyalty is easily maintained with the click of a button, religion is pretty stagnant and doesn't need any attention really, and by the time the Viking invasion arrives as a late game threat, you've steamrolled half the map and can have at least 10-15 stacks waiting for them on the shores of Britain. Things are pretty straightforward with TOB, with factions like Wessex, Gwynedd, or for a Viking faction with East Anglia, where starting positions, economies, diplomacy circumstances are as ideal as it gets. So that's super easy, unfun TOB at number 5. Let's move on to number 4. Rome 2 Total War, and don't get me wrong, I love Rome 2, especially with mods like DEI or Parabellum and others that do actually make the game more difficult, but on its own, Rome 2 is definitely an easy game. As with most games, certain factions are way more powerful than others, so things aren't so balanced here as, say, Shogun 2 or Napoleon. Play as Rome or Egypt or Macedon, and you have almost no chance of losing a battle with some overpowered, really overpowered armies. Having a crap economy or getting into a tough situation, as these factions especially, just does not happen, and they're just incredibly overpowered compared to especially their immediate neighbors. The biggest complaint about Rome 2, of course, is how blatantly passive the AI is, and that's a big reason as to why it's so easy. Some mods do fix this, but vanilla Rome 2 is essentially steamroll central, where as soon as you get to 2 or 3 stacks of decent units, no other faction stands a chance at stopping you, and especially with an auto-resolve system that favors things like range-heavy armies, and AI army rosters incredibly basic, it's just not really a challenge at all. The political secession system, while annoying, can basically be avoided with either money or with keeping the influence of other political parties on the low side by not hiring them as generals at all. And while naval combat is really fun to watch, the AI doesn't know how it works, and units like artillery ships are just insanely overpowered. Rome 2 is just an extremely easy game, and all of this and more is why it sits at number 4 in this list. So at number 3, we have Empire. Empire Total War definitely deserves this position in my opinion because mainly CA designed a beautiful game in reality, but the AI just doesn't know how to play it at all. You can often buy entire regions for 20,000 or less. In fact, you can probably play and finish an entire campaign just defending your territory and buying AI regions, playing vertically to build an economy and just buying everything up. The AI doesn't know how to invade by sea, which is just comical given most of the map is water, and the AI on land is extremely passive, so you'll rarely play a defensive battle anyway. The main problem with Empire, though, above all else, is the economy. As the player, if you build and specialize certain provinces, and if you go for monopolizing the trade routes, especially around the map, you will have an unstoppable economy that will, within 20 to 30 turns, allow you to get loads of armies recruited for you to begin steamrolling entire continents. It's actually insane how quickly you can get rich enough in this game. I still enjoy it, of course. I think the naval battles are just the best. Factions like Britain, Spain, or Sweden are really comfortable and fun campaigns, but most people people complain, and rightfully so, that the AI just fails at everything, which is why Empire sits at third position as an incredibly easy total war. So next up and second on our list here is Medieval 2 Total War. Definitely one of the easiest games in the series, and to be honest, a lot of the reasons are similar to Rome 2. We've got factions like England and Venice that get access to some really overpowered units early on in the game that are totally unbalanced against other factions in the neighborhood. Not to mention their start positions are super easy to defend. You've got game mechanics like Papal Favor and the Crusades that are extremely easy to handle and make conquering insanely easy, and you've got an AI that, while quite active diplomatically, constantly declaring wars or changing up from allies to enemies, will be quite passive when it comes to invading your territory, often besieging a city and just staying there for 5-6 turns without attacking, so you can reinforce and then defend the city. The other mechanic in Medieval 2 that I love personally, but that's super easy and overpowered, is upgraded militia units. The AI doesn't do it very well, but if you upgrade your units early on, they just become absolute killers in the battlefield that no other unit really has a chance of standing against. It's a really nice mechanic, don't get me wrong, and I wish more Total Wars used it, but in Medieval 2, it's just excessively easy to get stacks of upgraded militia early on to then just demolish any faction in your way. I mean, hell, in Medieval 2, if you're down to your last settlement, the AI doesn't attack you. That's a fact. The only two things you need to worry about in the game are plague, which is easily solved with buildings, and the Mongol invasion, which if you're a Western faction, you basically don't need to worry about. Everything else is basically a breeze as long as you don't expect any AI to stick to anything they say diplomatically, and as long as you build strong economies with strong armies early on. Medieval 2 is a very easy game, but it's also a very fun game. Out of all the Total Wars, it's got some really very interesting mechanics, which is why it's second on my list today. Finally, and at the very top of our list, is the original or remastered Rome Total War. As any faction really, but especially as the Roman families, this game is an absolute breeze, but in a super minimalistic and fun way. Heavy cavalry, elephants are super powerful, the AI is quite passive and doesn't put up too much of a fight. By the time you've conquered all the rebel areas around you, you'll see the other factions haven't quite expanded enough just yet, so you can just take them on pretty quickly. The economy system is simple enough, there are really only a handful of buildings you need to build in every settlement to get rich quick, and all while having a relatively stress-free and easygoing campaign. I like to think of Rome Total War as a game of just sitting back, clicking a few buttons, and watching your faction grow from a few cities to basically an empire in an afternoon. No political issues, easy economy, easy diplomacy. I mean, everyone wants to be your friend until they have an army, at which point you just have to strike first. It's such an easy game that it's fun, and that's why it's at the top of my list today. Overall, Total War games, for obvious reasons, are quite easy to handle, whether it's AI issues or not very well thought out design issues or mechanics that don't cause any stress or factions that are just super overpowered versus the rest. That doesn't mean that every single campaign in these games is going to be easy, by the way, but it does mean you will very likely have a comfortable time and in some cases, a bit of a boring time as well. And that's going to be it for today, guys. Today, I wanted to do a bit of a new style of content with some top 5 lists in Total War. This is the first video of its kind that I really enjoyed making. I really hope you enjoyed watching it and found it informative. If you did, do give it a like and drop any thoughts or questions in the comment section below. Let me know if you agree with me on this list or if you have other top 5 videos you want to see. Subscribe to the channel for more Total War content just like this. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.